Well, Levi Parham, welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So you're in town. I wanted to get you on the podcast, and you've been doing some interesting stuff with mobile homes. And I guess I just want to hear your story, how you got to do what you're doing and kind of where everything started. And you're actually from Asheville, too. So how did you go from Asheville to Georgia and get into what you're doing now?
So, yeah, from Candler. Noel and I went to high school together, and that's how I know him. And went off to Western Carolina, went to college there. When I graduated, I got into selling mobile home parks as a real estate agent. And to be honest with you, didn't find a whole lot of success in it. I had a lot of traction, but nothing ever really started taking off. And when my wife graduated from college, she took a job in Georgia, and we moved down there, and I had to make the decision, do I want to continue pursuing the mobile home park brokerage space or go into something else? And there was a park owner in Winston-Salem who I was just begging him to sell his portfolio for it's about 300 spaces, all lot rent, all filled. It was my big deal, my big break. And he kept on telling me that basically he wasn't going to sell me his park or his portfolio, but that if I could find him some houses, that he really needed something. He hadn't been able to find any in a long time. There used to be a ton of deals. He can't find them anymore. So I got down to Georgia and was looking around to do some of that. I was thinking that could be another alternative. Like, I already know about parks. I know how it works. And surely, finding mobile homes couldn't be that hard. And so I got into that. And so I started calling around to dealerships, local dealerships, and I found out which one didn't take trade-ins. And I just showed up down there after calling them. I called everyone and said, hey, do you take trade-ins? The one that said no, I showed up and said, hey, I want a job here, and I want to do your trade-ins and used stuff. And they were like, well, we don't do that, but you can have a job. So I started there, and we had someone come in who wanted to sell a mobile home, and I flipped it. I bought it and resold it. I sold it in about 15 minutes. So I went out to this person's house. They wanted to trade in to buy a new house. I went out there, made an offer on their house, and I had a park connection that I already knew from back when I was doing this, because it was right on the South Carolina-Georgia line near Greenville, South Carolina. And since we're here in Asheville, it's not far away. So I had this park owner I knew, and I called him before I got there. I was like, hey, I've got this house. I'm going to get a good deal on it. I didn't even know if it's a good deal or not, but I'm going to get a good deal on it, and I'm going to buy it today at around 5 o'clock. You want to meet me afterwards? And so I showed up, did a wholesale, because I didn't know what a wholesale was, really. He told me what a wholesale was over the phone. I kind of knew, but I didn't know. And put it under contract, drove about 10 minutes down the road to McDonald's, and he paid me for the contract and went on. And I literally made $700, which is obviously nothing on a wholesale. And he didn't even take it in his park. He took it, put it right back online. I sold it to him for $8,000. He had it gone in 2 days for $14,000, so he made $6,000 off of me. But it was a good learning lesson, and it kind of showed me that I could do it. And so I kept doing that. And the dealership I was with was not liking me doing that, so I ended up leaving them and doing that full time. And now I just the main thing we do is find mobile homes for park owners. We're sourcing them from individuals who need a mobile home that must be moved for the most part. So you inherit it from your grandma, you're buying a new mobile home, you're building a house, whatever it may be, where you don't want it anymore. We're buying those, and we're flipping those over to park owners and getting park owners single wides at affordable rates, and we're getting these people out of houses they don't want.
Yeah, wow. I rarely meet anyone whose first deal is a home run. It's just kind of like a way to get started and learn and get in the business. Going back there, obviously you talked about a lot of stuff that I kind of wanted to dig into, but what got you interested in the mobile home or the manufactured housing space in general? How did you even get involved in that?
So I went to school for entrepreneurship. That's my degree. And one of the things they talk about is, obviously, if you're doing the same thing as everyone else, like competition, that book by Peter Thiel? I don't remember.
0 to 1?
0 to 1, where he's talking about, starting Monopoly or whatever, and competitions for losers. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that kind of that frame of mind of what's everyone else in right now. And even though it was only a couple of years ago, mobile home parks wasn't it. Mobile home parks have taken off so much in the last few years that even then it was so much quieter. And I remember when when I showed up at the brokerage, and they're like, what do you want to do? Like, we don't by doing medical offices. Do you want to do that? And I was like, no, I want to do mobile home parks. And they were like definitely judging and all this other stuff. But that's what I decided I went into. And I took Bryce's class as like an intro to learn about the space, and just went with it.
So when you started with your brokerage, there was nobody else doing mobile home parks there?
No.
Wow.
No one. I mean, when there was, it was a franchise. So there's other people, within the SVN doing it, but at my office, there's no one doing it, and there was definitely, they were nice to me. When I said it, I could tell there's definitely like, oh, okay. He must be the mobile home guy.
That's a big difference from medical offices.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, that's and I loved it. I embraced it because, everyone else was coming in there. And at first, I was coming in there like a button-up in my jacket and all this stuff. And I remember I went to my first listing appointment over in Asheville on a park that's near the VA. And I got out of the car, and he said, whoa, come on in here, pretty boy. And I had like my jacket on, and remember I got out of the car that day. I was like, all right, so flannels from now on.
Yeah,
so,
you're not an apartment broker.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, yeah, I didn't put a jacket back on. I mean, not even going to work anymore. I was the guy who was dressed like a mobile home guy.
That's funny. Yeah, Rodrigo and I always talked a lot about just on wholesaling, like you can't really show up dressed to the nines if you're offering somebody $25,000 in their house.
Oh yeah.
You see all these guys on Instagram and they're wholesalers and they're flexing, they're driving Ferraris. It's like you can't drive a Ferrari and then buy somebody's house, like I said, for $20,000 and then turn around and sell it for $100. Like
just try that on mobile homes. It's even more. I'm like literally. I mean, I probably get on average house every other month for free because it's just like I don't want them. You know what I mean? Or the average price we put a house at is probably $5,000. The average price I buy a single wide at. So it's pretty hard to show up looking fancy when that's your offer.
Sure. So let's dive into that. So now you're in Georgia. You're kind of stumbled into this business of sourcing homes, basically, right? Mobile homes. And I guess where does that leave you after you did your first deal? Like, is that something you're committed to, I guess, building into a business then?
So, yeah, the next...
kind of what's the long-term play there in your head?
So the next thought was, so I was like, okay, this kind of worked. Let's look into like mobile home investing. Like that was I enjoyed that. Obviously, I didn't have any money in it, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time. So looked to it online. Stumbled across a guy named John Fedro, who is like the OG of teaching. He's like the modern day Lonnie Suggs or something like that. So he's got a ton of content online, and his model that he pushes is buying them out of parks for a couple $1,000, put a couple $1,000 in, and then sell them off on monthly payments for 5 years. Even at $300 a month on 5 years, that's $25,000. That's $20,000. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it adds up. And so I did one of those. I got lucky on this. I went out to a mobile home park. I went out to look at a mobile home in the middle of nowhere. This town has literally one stoplight, one gas station, and of course a Dollar General, because those are everywhere. And that's it. That's literally all that's in the town. The town hall, the fire department, the water department's all one building.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tiny. And the guy was like, well, I mean, if you want some more mobile homes, because I told him I couldn't take his house. It was just too bad. He's like, that park down there has got a bunch of empty ones. So I drove up to this park, and the lady who owned the park had inherited it and had no interest in running the park. She was an artist, like Picasso painter artist, and she was like, okay, I got 5 houses out here. If you'll leave them here, you can have them. And I'm like, okay, sweet. Like, that's a good way to start on a deal, is get them for free.
Yeah.
So I put $5,000 into that first house to fix it up, flooring, AC unit, all that other good stuff. And but I had to learn because I had no money. I had like $5,000 in total to start with, and so I was hiring like the cheapest contractors I could, and really cheap contractors in the middle of nowhere are just not a good idea.
Sure.
So I went through 3 contractors for one tiny single-wide mobile home that had no repairs really to be done to it. But I got it back on market, and it worked. So that was actually my original plan, was to do a bunch of those, because my thought was...
Lonnie deals?
Yeah, Lonnie deals. My thought was like, at $300 a month, if I'm getting these things for free, and I'm putting $5,000 into them, like, you're making good money pretty quickly, especially because I got $3,000 down. So I only had $2,000 in it after, a month. And that was my original plan, but I needed more capital. So I was like, well, you even though I only make $700, like a couple of those, I can buy another one of these houses. So I started doing more of those and just trying to learn that model of buying them and flipping to park owners. That's the only way I really thought I could do it. With kind of like a wholesale. I mean, same thing you're doing with the fix and flipper, but my buyer was a mobile home park owner. And in doing so, I was doing that for a little while and having a little bit of success. And I got lucky. My partner reached out to me. My partner's name is Max Baker. He runs the company Mobile Home Park Broker of Atlanta. They sell mobile home parks.
Yeah. One of the bigger brokers in the Southeast is for specifically parks.
Yeah, and so he reached out to me and said, like, hey, we could play into each other. You could help fill these parks that I'm selling, and I'll give you a ton of cash buyers. Like, it goes together. And so that was kind of the model was, hey, and so we sent out a letter, and there's a huge demand for them, and there's a ton of park owners who need inventory. So we sent out a newsletter, or put out a little tiny ad, like a 1-inch ad in the bottom of this newsletter that he sends out every month or every quarter. And that one quarterly ad brought us in, and we did literally one round of direct mail. That's it. Not like we hit them multiple times, like one postcard and one in the bottom. And in about a week, we had 67 park owners who had reached out to us, and just in the state of Georgia, who were looking for inventory. So that buyer side was done and just needed inventory at that point. Okay.
So how did you find the inventory? I guess was that your next problem? Like, okay, like there's obviously a demand here. How do I meet this demand?
Yeah. So when it comes to inventory, there are a lot of people out there who do what I was talking about, like the Lonnie Suggs model, the Lonnie Deal model of buying mobile homes and parks. And it's taught a lot. I actually don't really know anyone else other than myself and maybe one or two other guys who do the whole, like, I want to buy mobile homes that need to be moved. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And so my thought basically was that I'm just going to find all these people, and all their leads they don't want, we'll take. And so Max and I showed up to a Atlanta RIA, and it was for a wholesale event. And at the end of it, the idea was like JVs. It was like the guy was really pushing, like, if you JV and blah blah blah. He's like, so introduce yourself, tell everyone what you do. And Max stands up and he's like, my name's Maxwell Baker, and we need 1,000 mobile homes in the state of Georgia. and this guy was like a guest speaker from, I think, Arizona. And he had probably at his line at the end of the RIA, he probably had like 15 people want to talk to him, and we probably had, no joke, like 35 or 40. Like, we had this huge line of people who were like, yeah, we get mobile, like, we're traditional wholesalers and we don't want these mobile homes, we have no buyers for them. And so we just had a ton of people like that. And so I do get a good amount of stuff from people like that.
Yeah.
We do some online marketing, and just like I said, there's not a lot of people who do what I do. So if you can build the brand that you actually do that, then I get probably about half of my deals are referrals or some sort of JV or something like that.
So how long have you been doing this business model? Has it been a year now?
About a year, and Max and I partnered up in January, so we're about a year there, and then I was doing it for about 6 months before I met Max, so something like that.
Do you plan to do any more of the Lonnie deals where you buy a home, fix it up, and sell it on payments?
Yes and no. If I do that model, I would like it to be more concentrated. That one was just a good deal, and I didn't know I was doing it, and it was probably like an hour and 15 minutes from my house. And even though you are not doing a lot of maintenance, because you're rent-to-owning it, I mean, there are some laws around rent-to-own where you can't do that many of them, and if you decide to go to and so the returns, and that's an older mobile home, there's a good amount of repairs to be done, and if I do that model, I would, where I'm living, I would do something near me, but that's about it. I don't want to really grow that and expand it the way I would others.
Do you still have that one?
Mm-hmm.
And no issues with it?
Yeah, it's to be honest with you, every time I get paid by him, I think I needed to get another one, because I probably haven't talked to the lady in 8 months, and she's never missed a payment. I called her when COVID hit and asked her, like, are you going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
And she was like, I mean, I pay $300. Like, it's okay. And I'm like, all right, cool. So that was it. Her lot rent there is it's out in the country. Like I said, it's like $200, which is actually pretty high lot rent for that area. She pays me $300. So, I mean, where else you can live for $500? Even in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to live anywhere for $500. And, I mean, we fixed the house up nice. I mean, it's an older metal-on-metal mobile home, but we put, new flooring, new AC, all that good stuff in it. So she lives there, and she has a kid, and she takes care of it. I mean, it's a good situation, really.
Cool. What has been, I guess, your biggest struggle? I mean, you're a young guy, trying to figure out a new business that no one else is really, you're paving your own path per se, because you kind of stumbled on a niche that hasn't really been, I guess, widely discovered. I don't know if that's the right way to word that, but what has been your biggest, I guess, struggle as you're kind of working through these new challenges?
I think that is the struggle, is that there's not a model to copy. And a lot of businesses just like taking an idea that someone else has and applying it here and twisting it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of overlap and stuff like that. And
kind of what you did if you take the Scruggs model.
Yeah, I took the Scruggs model, and then I mean, you and I were friends, and I knew what you were doing, and you're the only person I really knew that I had a relationship with who was wholesaling, and I didn't know that much about wholesaling, so I tried to take some of that model, and like you're just kind of taking, but there's not a model really to follow. So I do a lot of like we talked about beforehand, like one of the things I have trouble with is as I expand, just being in enough places to close deals, because mobile homes don't close like traditional real estate. Like you don't do it through a lawyer. There's it's swapping paper. It's like a car.
Yeah.
And so because we're doing it like that, sometimes literally it's super simple to swap paper, but I just can't be here in Asheville, North Carolina, and in Clarksville, Georgia, where I live, and in Fayetteville, North. Like I can't be all the places at the same time. So just like getting those things done is difficult, and just trying to figure out that model as I go. Do I apply the brokerage model? Do I apply this model? Like for a while, my like goal was to be like the CarMax of used mobile homes, and I was like going to have a bunch of dealerships. Like I don't know. So it's just kind of hitting walls and taking pivots and over again. So there's a lot of things I've changed in the last year of how I do things, but it's learning as we go.
Yeah. That's interesting about the CarMax. I never thought about that. I guess you really could, get a moving truck or,
my thought was this.
Just get a parking lot somewhere.
Yeah, because the thing is with CarMax, like before CarMax, it was just like all like Bob's Used Cars or John. Like, you mean like it was not, there was
like any
not
used car dealership you see.
Yeah, there was not, CarMax was this huge brand, and there's not that in the used mobile home space. There's Clayton obviously with new homes, but there's not that at all in the used space, just like with that. So that was my idea, was like, all right, how do we become the CarMax? But, I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into that. There's so many variables into moving houses, like they're homes. Like, you move an entire house down the road. There's a lot of, like, stuff that goes into that, repairs, sales, licensed in each state. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And so, and I do most of mine virtually, so if I don't have to have a lot, like, all the better,
Yeah. So what is, like, I don't know if the life cycle is the right word, but like, what's the time span that it takes you to do, like a mobile home wholesale deal? Because with, residential real estate, like it's at least 30 days because you got to do a title search, you got to do all this, you got to do attorneys, at least in North Carolina. And I know you're dealing somewhat with the DMV too, I think. So like, what does that process look like?
So in Georgia, it's not as much with the DMV. Most of the stuff is doing the county tax office. But so it depends on what kind of deal I'm doing. If we are doing a wholesale, the basic process is that I find the deal, I go out there, check it out, and then if I can just get a look at the title, I mean, since it's a title, if there's a lien on it or anything like that, it's literally written on the title. So the title search is pretty easy. And then taxes, just call the local tax office. That's the two things you really have to worry about. Like, do they actually have a title? A lot of people have missing titles, and you have to work through that. Yeah. But do you actually have a title? Cool. Is there a lien? No. And so once you have that and it's under contract, it's just finding the buyer. And it depends on how we go about it. Like, if we're doing wholesale and I'm going to like a park owner or some sort of cash buyer, or whoever it may be, because sometimes we do to people who aren't park owners, then that timeline can be, I mean, if I bought it right and I didn't mess up, it can be, I mean, I've sold them in, like I said, I've sold that one in 15 minutes. I sold most of them in under 2 weeks. Yeah. Like they're gone and then they're off, and they're, I'm buying a home that has to be moved, so my contract is the home will be moved in 30 days. So most of mine are.
Who's that contract with, the park owner or the homeowner?
With the homeowner, because that's, a lot of times that's what their real thing is. A lot of these people, it's difficult to sell a mobile. Here's why it's hard, and here I can do what I do. If the average mobile home owner in America has a household income of $25,000.
Yeah.
The cost of moving a mobile home in Georgia, if you're going to like truly move one, set it up, skirt it, deck it, connect utilities, like like be able to live in it. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
it's somewhere on a single wide, you're probably looking at $7,000. Here locally, I just talked to a mover here locally today. He said because we're in the mountains and stuff are different, it's closer to 13 here.
Yeah. When I run numbers on parks, like I usually estimate about 15.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, like, what if there's something wrong with your ground utilities, or it's just better to be, I'd rather be surprised when it comes out to 7 than pissed off when it's 18 or something.
Yeah. So if you think about it like that, like $7,000 for people who household income is 25. Okay, if it's 7 just to move it, and this person only wants to sell their house for 5. Well, now we're at $12,000, which is literally half their income for the entire year.
Yeah.
So there's not the number of cash buyers. They're like, it's just few and far between. And so that's why we can go out and buy these houses, because there's just not a lot of them. And
moving's the hardest part, like you mentioned. Like every mobile home that's for sale has to be moved practically.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the hardest part, especially around here in Asheville. It's like, okay, I'm an investor. Where am I going to move this home? Because majority of the parks around here aren't going to let me put it in their park and then rent it out to someone else because, for liability reasons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, it is tough if you're trying to sell your mobile home and it needs to be moved.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what I think it's kind of what we've been able to do, is just kind of put systems and processes in place for these people, because a lot of times, like, I'm super transparent when I go in there. I tell these people, I'm buying your house. I'm not buying your house. I'm reselling it for more money. But I often compare it to like Craigslist with the used car mobile home, or the used car thing again. If you as a buyer are going to buy a used car, are you going to get a better deal on Craigslist or showing up to CarMax? Like, you're going to get a better deal on Craigslist, but you're buying a car off of Craigslist, which is like kind of sketchy. You don't know the guy. You're showing up at his house. He knows you have money. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so like I went to school for marketing. Our Facebook page last month got 50-something thousand views. And so I can generally sell your house for more than you can. Like, literally, I'm able to do that because I have a brand, I have a lot of viewers, a lot of eyes. I run a lot of Facebook groups and things like that. That's the main place we sell mobile homes, on Facebook. And so
this is the main place you're selling them or buying them?
Both, really.
Both.
Yeah, just because, you think demographic-wise, a lot of them are going to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I'm able to do that, really.
Cool. What, the majority of the homes, like, do they need a lot of work that you're buying, or are some of them just, like, perfect?
Yeah, it just depends. Like, I bought a house last week that probably had one soft spot in the floor. Like, when I say soft spot, like the...
Are they occupied when you look at them, or it just depends?
It depends. Like, that house was a repo. The guy passed away, and so the bank ended up taking it back. And then a lot of the houses I buy, I'm buying them from someone who's moving out to move into another house, or they've built a house. So
yeah,
they're livable, because someone has been living in it, and they may have like some scuffs or holes, or the same stuff you see in wholesale where someone lives in it, and maybe not like how you want to live, but as far as true repairs, it's not that bad, So
now, are they all free and clear that you're doing, or are you moving and selling some with mortgages on them, or?
No, I haven't really got into that. A lot of mobile home mortgage companies, they won't let you assume the loan, but they'll work with you a lot to try to get someone else to take over the loan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they use mobile homes, it's just hard to do that. And so if you have one, then
well, they don't want it back. Like,
they don't,
a bank doesn't want your house back, but the 21st Mortgage really doesn't want your mobile home back.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon for all. If someone calls me, I had a lady I talked to this morning, and she's like, I've got a house, I owe $40 on it. Here's my bank's number. If you want to talk to them, they don't want the house back. Like, they want me to sell it. Can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. We'll see what we can do. So.
And where's the jury's out on that one still, or?
Yeah, the jury's out on that one. Haven't laid eyes on it yet. But it's a pretty new house. She probably bought it for, it's 2016, I think. So she probably bought it for, she has 40 in it. I'd say she probably bought it for over 50 a couple, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So, no, more than that. She probably bought it for 65 a couple years ago. You know what I mean? So
really, yeah. It's amazing. So touching just on mobile home parks in general, you've been in the space since what, 2018?
Yeah.
What have you seen change? Obviously there's like a whole new life in the space, but are you seeing any trends right now just for people who are interested in maybe either Lonnie deals or mobile home parks in general, or just some general market knowledge for us?
It's wild, to be honest with you, because it's 2018. 2018 was not that long ago.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I came into it, when I told people, I think I want to do mobile home parks. They're like, trailer parks? Like, what? What are you talking about? And now I'm pretty sure if I showed up at the same brokerage and was like, yeah, I'm going to be mobile home parks, they're like, yeah, you and everyone else. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there's been a huge difference in it. Even there's been a huge difference in the last year, really. It's really cranked up. And the mobile home space has cranked up a lot. There's a lot more people who are teaching, who've taken over and taught that Lonnie Strokes model that I talked about. And so there's a lot of people on both sides. It's like the last frontier. I feel like there's like a gold rush on it right now, that it's one of the last frontiers of real estate that people haven't really got into. And so someone found out about it, and was, with the way marketing is, social media these days, once somebody finds out about it, it's gonna spread pretty quickly.
The floodgates opened.
Yeah.
And then speaking of that, I mean, Blackstone within the last 2 months or something just closed on like $500 million worth of parks somewhere in the country. Yeah. And so that's huge. And yeah, I mean, you take that money from apartment space. There's a lot of apartment guys coming in and seeing that you can buy deals at 7 caps instead of 5.5.
Oh yeah.
And so they're okay with pushing the prices down and getting lower returns compared to what the mobile home park guys are used to. So it's like you said, I mean, 2018 wasn't that long ago, but it's definitely changed in 2 years.
Well, like in 2018 even, I remember when I first started doing comps, if you had a park-owned home park, and I was trying to run the numbers on what I thought, I was running them at above 10 caps. If you had an all park-owned home, that's 2 years ago. Like, I was running your park. If you had all park-owned homes, I was probably running at like an 11 cap is what I was planning on trying to list it for. And there's people, like, I had listings, stuff was happening, and because that was standard. And now
I would run parks with wells and septics at 10 caps too.
Yeah.
And then if it's citywide, it's 8, and then now it's 6 and 8 or 7. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
What are your long-term goals? What are you working towards? What's the next step? Do you ever plan to get back in the brokerage side of things again? You going to keep doing what you're doing? What is I got 5, 10 years, 2 years. What is your what's on your horizon?
Horizon is right now we're trying. It's working. Like we've got some traction. Things are moving. To be honest, I expect a lot more to happen in the next little bit with loan forbearances going to an end and all these things like that. I think it's going to be a big beginning of next year. I think it's going to be really big for us. But I'm trying my best. Like my thing right now, and something we just talked about when we went to lunch, was like putting like systems and processes in and trying to figure out people and personnel to where like it works in Georgia. I've done a little bit in South Carolina. I've done a deal or two in Alabama. I'll probably do one in Fayetteville at the end of this week. It works, and it works in a lot of places, but I can't be everywhere. And we're patching it together right now when I'm somewhere else. Like if I need something done somewhere else, I don't have an exact plan of how to get that done. I'm like calling around, hey, can you do this? I need a way to scale it. And so that's kind of what we're working on is, since there's not an exact model, it's a lot of beating your head against the wall and trying to figure it out. And but that's what we're doing, is just trying to figure out exactly how to get people in different markets to help us close deals and facilitate it. Because as far as finding deals, we've gotten pretty good at it. As far as finding buyers, we've gotten really good at it. Now it's just...
So you had the business model. Now you're just trying to get the systems together so you can really grow and scale.
Yeah.
Okay. And then ever plan to get back into the sales or brokerage side of things?
On the park side, not really. I don't really plan on getting the brokerage side on either. Really.
On anything?
It would probably be a good time to be in it right now. Just because everyone's so interested, but at the same time, I don't know. There's always give and take. If there's a lot of people interested in it, there's less deals we had because stuff is trading off market and blah, blah, blah. But, no, I don't really have any plans of getting back into it. I enjoyed it while I was in it, and I learned a lot, but I guess I could work for myself, but for the most part, I enjoy doing this.
Yeah, by all means, the park space blowing up only helps you with what you're doing now.
For sure.
So if somebody wants a mobile home, or if somebody wants to sell a mobile home, or just connect with you in general, how does somebody get in touch with you?
If you're an investor, or park owner, or whatever, you can usually find me on LinkedIn is where I do most of that stuff at. That's where most people reach out to me. And
that's Levi Parham?
It's Levi Parham.
How do you spell Parham?
Parham. And as far as on our brokerage side, that's okay. And if you're an investor, we do most of that through a company called Home Wholesalers, because that's exactly what we're doing. And then if you're looking to sell a mobile home, that side of the business is called Mobile Home Gone, because it tells you exactly what we're doing. We're getting ready to your mobile home.
Are those websites, Mobile Home Gone and Mobile Home Wholesalers?
Yep.
Okay.
And both of them will pop up if you just give them a Google.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Levi, thanks so much for coming on the show, talking about what you got going on. And
That was good. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it, Levi.
All right.